Oh, hey everyone, it's Warren Hayes once again here. I'm going to be reviewing AEW Dynamite. It's that time of the week. We're going to be reviewing the November 23rd, 2022 edition of AEW Dynamite. Thank you very much for popping in. Hope you guys are having a great day whenever you decide to listen to this and wherever you decide to listen to this. If you're listening to this on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, consider giving a like and subscribe to the channel as well. That way you won't miss any reviews that I do or anything else. The Mr. Warren Hayes Show proper, preview shows, whatever. Or, you can also subscribe on your favorite podcast app as well. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, a 5-star rating on Spotify. Those things are great. It all helps out tremendously to grow the channel, grow the podcast, whatever expression you want to use to define what I do. But what we do here on Thursdays, which is when I'm recording this on the Thursday after the next day, which is what I usually do. We go in deep here. This is what we do here on Thursdays. And we've got an all-timer to talk about. One of the great dynamites. One of the all-time great dynamites happened before our eyes. And we're going to start out, the lead here, of course, is, all the elite CM Punk nonsense situation. Don't want to editorialize just yet, Warren. Don't start calling it nonsense straight out the gate. But this is what we have to start off with. Because, there's been clearly, there's been a direction that's been given to what's happening moving forward. The Elite returned. That was announced on last week's Dynamite. They had their match at Full Gear this weekend. By the way, if you want to see, if you want my full review of Full Gear 2022, I have it up there on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show podcast proper. That's right there. But things, not only have things unthawed, things are, coming back to a certain level of normalcy. There's even being the Elite returned this week. Like everyone is falling back into their old slippers at this point. Everything feels comfortable once again. So the Elite and CM Punk, the whole situation here, we're now getting, of course, a very Elite perspective of everything here. The Bucks, on being the Elite this week, said that they were going through a healing process, right? Returning to the locker room. That the locker room, they in the locker room were going through a healing process. Kenny Omega, went on, had an interview and said that, he just wants people to leave all of this stuff alone and move on, right? They're like, okay, we're ready to move forward. But then, then you have on this week's BTE, clear focus of the fuck CM Punk chants that occurred at Full Gear, right? Where Brandon Cutler is right there, turns the camera towards the audience and, clear as day, you're hearing them chant. So much for moving on. And then in the match that the Elite had with Death Triangle last night, boy, oh boy, did they lean in hard on CM Punk last night. They referenced just about everything, didn't they? The fucked up buckshot lariat that Punk did in his match with Hangman Page. Kenny Omega actually pulls off a go to sleep. He bit an arm. And that's outside of the fact that, of course they were playing into the crowd who were somewhat pro CM Punk, very, very, very pro Punk chants coming across. Hell, and it still continued, right? Kenny Omega even thanked Kenta on Twitter for the GTS, referring to that long-standing rivalry between Kenta and CM Punk, right? And this has got people really, really, all bent out of shape. They're like, Why are they doing this? They should be classier. They shouldn't be referencing this at all. This is the type of situation. Where I discover people who don't like the same things in pro wrestling that I do. This is where we start. This is where I can draw a line. I'm like, well, I have nothing in common with you. Because if you saw anything that happened in that match last night that wasn't, and you didn't get into it, you didn't think it was excellent, you didn't think it was smart booking, good production, whatever you want to call it, if you didn't think that was a stroke of genius, I don't know what to tell you. We're on completely different planes of existence, and you can pop into the comments and tell me all the reasons why you think that this was a bad idea, and you're not going to be able to convince me. Because the match that I saw last night was extraordinary. It was excellent. We had a hot, molten crowd. Because of everything that happened and how it was addressed in the ring. Because the Elite used it as heat. Now look, let's step back a little bit. I can understand the cries for, they should be classier about this. After all, they're EVPs. At this point, I don't even know what the term EVP means. Because the companies seem to be working fine without them. So what is their role exactly? Like, I don't even know what it means significantly. And that's okay. AEW doesn't have to provide me with that information. They're not a publicly traded company, so they don't have to give me this information. So sure, okay, let's go down the path. They're EVPs. They're executives in the company. Maybe you expect a certain decorum. How about that, right? I think that's fair. But they're also professional wrestlers. They are performers. That's essentially what they are. So when they get into the ring and it is time to turn it up and it's time to get the crowd invested into what they're doing, they have to do what they do best. They have to do what brought them to the dance in the first place, and that is be professional wrestlers. And if a proper professional wrestler will read a room, will understand what the audience is going for, and will lean into it. So everything they did last night made tons of sense. Now, where I will meet a lot of people halfway in this argument here, in this situation where people are like, where I will get behind this is that still to this day, there has been nothing but opacity as opposed to transparency in regards to what the hell was going on. What the hell is CM Punk's situation right now? Contracts, payout, whatever. We don't know what the details are. I've talked about this before. And I want to reiterate this. AEW is not beholden to provide this type of information because they are a private company and they can manage this however they want. So on that end, it's all right? But again, say this one more time, as a company that came up saying that they wanted to change the world, that they wanted to do things differently, this is not something that I expect out of them. I was expecting more transparency, or at least you would expect more transparency from a company who says, you know what, we're going to be much more different. We're not going to do things like the other guys. We're going to try and break some of the tropes of that pro wrestling companies have had in the past. Now it just feels like, the Iron Curtain is up there, just like many companies in the past, trying to scooch things aside and not address them. It's especially egregious in a company that had that came up through a very grassroots mobilization, right, of fans. So to me, I can understand why people are like, look, this kind of stinks. This is still kind of stupid. It's stupid that the Elite are in the ring taking shots at CM Punk when none of this has been addressed officially. And I can understand that to a degree. I can understand, and I can get behind that, because ultimately, I've told you guys this many times, guys, gals, non-binary pals, I've told you this many times. I'm here for the chaos. I'm here for the pettiness. It just adds. It adds so much to a pro wrestling show. Look at what it added to the match last night. Tell me that wasn't a win. If you don't see this as a win, if you don't see what the Elite did as a victory for this match, as a pro wrestling fan, not in some weird the Elite versus CM Punk feud that exists in the brains of wrestling fans online. If you don't see what happened last night as a win for that match, I don't know what to tell you. We don't like the same things in pro wrestling. This to me was excellent. That it elevated the match. It made it better. This is why I tell you, chaos in wrestling is good. It always is. Let the pettiness shine through. Let's do this shit. The status quo is so fucking boring. As I said, these guys, the Elite and Death Triangle on top of that, these people are performers who understand pro wrestling, who came up wrestling in front of crowds and doing it in a way that makes more sense than the opposite of trying to get you to cheer a certain way, where instead it's like, well, let's just lean into this. Let's go along with the crowd. Break this down in your mind for a second. The Elite are going into Chicago, CM Punk's fortress, right? I was going to say Fortress of Solitude, but I think that would be, I think it might be misconstrued here. But it's still funny to me. It's his fortress. What do? You're fully expecting the audience to go to be supportive of CM Punk. Christ, we're chanting, fuck the Elite, CM Punk, fuck Colt Cabana. What do? Do you come into the match and not address anything? Present a squeaky clean Elite? No, we're the good guys. And try to push that through? The minute they came out, they got boos, CM Punk chants started. The Elite did what any professional wrestler with a brain on their heads, in their heads, not on their heads, that'd be kind of gross, but a brain in their heads would do. They leaned into the heat. Maybe this was already set up backstage. We don't know this. The point being, I'm not trying to say, oh, they called it on the fly. Maybe this was all planned out, right? Maybe they had a plan A, a plan B. Plan A, we get booed. Plan B, everyone's cheering for us and we'll just go with it. Whatever. But it was clearly, this was fine. They leaned into it. And it made the match better. It made the match better because I'll tell you what, this is what would have happened if they had ignored it. The crowd would have hijacked this match. If this had been a WWE production, they would have gone in and play everything as according to script, right? Following that precious storyline that they have set up, it's a baby face, so the baby faces can't get booed. They would have just gone with it, do one of these, put their hands over their ears and go, close their eyes, go, la, 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 we can't hear you, I'm a baby face. La, 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 la. That's what they would have done. And the crowd would have hijacked the match, as we have seen happen multiple times in the past with WWE crowds trying to voice their opinion, trying to voice their opinion towards Vince, force feeding a storyline or a situation down his way. They would have the audience ends up hijacking the match in whichever way. This is what would have happened. If the Elite would have been like, hey, we're baby faces, they would have just gotten buried in CM Punk chants. And what this did, by doing the buckshot spot, by Kenny Omega doing the GTS, sign and actually pulling one off with the bite and all of that, and the Elite playing off the heel energy they were getting. This is what it did. It got the crowd hot. More importantly, kept the crowd on track because it got them on Death Triangle's side. There was nothing in this match that was conceived to make sure that you stayed on the Elite side. You were then, the wrestlers did the most pro wrestling thing in the world, and it's like, look, these guys hate these guys. The audience hate these guys. We're going to have them cheer for these guys then. So you didn't feel bad when Death Triangle won. At the end, the Elite are working. The Elite are local heels. Local heels, Kenny Omega and the Jacksons. So you have the baby faces get in hot, get their offense in, get the big win, despite using the hammer. People cheered for it. The crowd was hot the entire time. Death Triangle, when they got into bursts of offense, got huge reactions from the crowd. Hot, legendarily hot crowd, perfectly played from top to bottom by everyone involved. And isn't that what you want? I saw some dude on Twitter going, I can't believe Death Triangle would agree with these baby antics. I'm like, here's the thing. Not only are these also seasoned professional wrestlers, but two of these guys have worked Mexico up and down and all around. If you think this bothered them, son, you got a little history to read up on, because that wasn't half as bad as anything that would have that goes on in Mexico. Why would any of those 6 guys leave that match and be like, oh, jeez. They got exactly what was needed. They did exactly what was needed, and it paid off dividends because the Elite played the heel roles. Death Triangle became babyfaces by default in this one, playing for the crowd. And it doesn't make you hate or like anyone more than this. Imagine you're a pro wrestling fan waving your finger at this and going, the Jacksons, no, that, the buckshot thing, that wasn't cool. Hot crowd. Playing into the crowd. Again, I'll bring back this comparison. AEW is a live show that is, by the way, broadcast on television. WWE puts on a television program which is shot in front of a live studio audience. I've been to both types of tapings. I've been to Dynamite and I've been to a SmackDown taping. I can promise you that a Dynamite will play to the crowd, will get you involved much more in the show, and the wrestlers will play for you, as opposed to a WWE show where everyone is working the hard cam 95% of the time. I promise you, there is a distinct difference. In one, you go to an AEW TV taping, you feel that you're a part of the show. But what you're doing when you go to a WWE show is, you're watching a show happen before your eyes. There's no real interactivity. You don't feel a part of the show. You feel the wall. You feel that there's a distance between what's going on. You feel that what you do doesn't have implications, and you don't feel like the wrestlers are playing to you. You, the person who paid outrageous amounts of dollars to be there live. And ultimately, this is what pisses me off about this whole situation here, is that, look, this is what I'm leading off with, right? Because to a degree, we have to talk about it because the way it was expertly played was outstanding, and it is a talking point. It is a talking point because I think it's a lost art in pro wrestling, at least on cable TV. It's a lost art in pro wrestling to come out and react to how the crowd, react accordingly in the ring as to how the crowd is reacting to you. I think that's a lost art because WWE for 20 years has been producing their matches to the letter without any competition, without anyone showing you how to do it differently. So when you see this kind of stuff, you're a little shocked, you're a little taken aback, but in fact, you're like, no, this is how it should be. So it is an important talking point. But this is what I want. But what's happening is that it's fueling this bizarre feud that exists with fans who have decided that they have to take a side in the CM Punk elite stuff. And you don't have to take a side. It's nonsense. You can lean towards, it can be like, well, look, objectively speaking, this, and that, so on and so forth, but you don't have to take a side. Now, people feel like they have to take a side here. They have to, there's a lot of, and this is where the discussion gets lost, because then it becomes, oh, they shouldn't have done this, oh, they shouldn't have done that, they shouldn't have, and instead of watching what happened and being enthralled, we're just going to cross our arms and we're going to debate as to whether Kenny Omega biting an arm was going a little too far. Who cares? Because everything they did created an excellent match. What more do you want? Everything worked in the context of this match. A lot of people out there on the internet need to curb their parasocial relationships with people they don't know. They really do. You don't have to go to bat for the elite. You don't have to go to bat for CM Punk. You don't have to go to bat for AEW. You don't have to go to bat for WWE. It doesn't matter. You can discuss it, but you're missing the point if you're just going in and the tragedy that is CM Punk and the elite are so petty. What did we end up getting? What is the result? The result is an excellent match. There's no need to take sides. You're not beholden to take sides. It doesn't matter. CM Punk, Wrestling Observer Radio today, as I record this on the Thursday, as I mentioned, Dave Meltzer said that some of the people on CM Punk's side, whatever that means, whoever that was, but I'm pretty sure you can have an idea, reached out to him to say that they really didn't care much about the 6-man tag. They thought, and of course they did. Of course they did. They didn't care for it much. Of course. Why would they? They're taking shots at CM Punk. And if anything, CM Punk is, I don't know, probably over there and going, oh, motherfuckers, they're doing, he's a wrestler. He should be like, sure. This news gets fed to Dave. You know what Dave does? Dave goes, they didn't care for it much. And then it gets overblown. And then it's like, and then, battle lines are drawn for some bizarre reason. And this is where we lose the plot. This is where we lose everything, because what we end up talking about online is this petty nonsense, just this idea that everyone has to pick a side, and we're setting aside the discussion of an excellent pro wrestling match on a Wednesday night, a Dynamite that was an all-timer. I don't think there has been a more consistent wrestling show being broadcast on a national level than AEW Dynamite has been in the past 3 years, giving us quality shows and top-notch 4 to 5 star matches on a regular basis. Not even Nitro at its peak could deliver so consistently. Neither could Raw. Not this consistently with great matches. No, we're going to focus on the politics. You get wrapped up in it. And then you forget somehow that we just had one of the greatest episodes of TV wrestling with some excellent matches on it that absolutely could have been 100% justified to be put behind a paywall. Absolutely. But you got it on cable on a Wednesday night for fucking nothing, outside of your cable subscription, of course. It's insane to me what we focus on. I hope that in 15, 20 years, when the next generation of wrestling fans pop up and show up on social media or whatever it is we'll have devised by then, and look back at the discussions that people were having around the medium, around Twitter and whatever, I hope they look back on it and they judge us harshly. I hope they look back on us, look at what we were talking about, and like, these people never talked about wrestling. All they talked about was how, great this person looked, or the gear, or got into the politics, or had their parasocial relationships take over any level of discourse. But no one ever talked about pro wrestling. No one ever talked about the matches themselves. I hope we get creamed by the next batch of fans coming up. I would hope so. And I hope they look back and they're like, you know what? Everyone was like that except MrWarrenHayes, who was the host of the best damn D-list podcast out there. What an A+ audience he had. Oh. Let's start talking about. So let's do it then. Let's talk about the card in about itself. Listen, of course, as we mentioned, Chicago, Illinois, Wintrust Arena. The show opens up with William Regal in the ring. Now, anyone who listens to my stuff knows that I cannot stand shows that start with promos. I watch wrestling. I don't watch, talky talk. You all know about that type of programming. Talky talk, starring Talkman. William Regal's in the ring, and it's okay. Like, as I said, I usually don't like it because this is important. This is not just opening up with a promo for the sake of opening the show with a promo. This is something that was on people's mind. We want to know what happened with William Regal. We want to know what happened with MJF. We want to be able to make connections here. This is probably the most important bit of storytelling coming out of Full Gear. So yes, I think, don't bury the lead. Start it off. I think it's significant. It is very significant because there's a lot of legitimately questions, unanswered questions opened up in the minds of fans. Why did Regal do it? Is MJF a heel? What does Jon Moxley think about all of this? What's going on with the BCC? Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that still needs to be addressed. So opening up in this if you open up your show with a promo, it better be for the best fucking reason. It better be crucial for some top-notch storytelling. Then I give it a pass. But if it's just like promo for a promo, hit the bricks, pal. But he gets on the mic and he says that we are going to hear from Maxwell Jacob Friedman next week because he doesn't have time to come to places like, and then he goes, where are we? Chicago. So Regal leaning into the heel. MJF's not there. He says he's on the set of a major motion picture. I don't know if that's legit or not. I saw some talk, and this is actually some interesting talk. As opposed to who's right, the Elite or CM Punk. That's just garbage. I did see some talk around. Was this a good idea to not bring out your newly crowned world champion for a promo this week? I'll tell you one thing. In the context of this show tonight, I think it was absolutely passable. It adds a little more heel heat to MJF, where he's like, yeah, you know what? I don't have to come out this week. I kind of dig it. I think it makes sense in MJF's character as well, in the context of the fantastic show that we got. Perfect. You don't want necessarily everything else to overshadow what your champion is doing, right? But I also wouldn't be surprised if this was done by design for business purposes, for viewership purposes, because for the past couple of years, the Dynamite, the ratings for the Dynamite on Thanksgiving Eve are not great. So why would you burn that on a Dynamite where you know is going to attract less viewers than usual? Or at least the trend is there. You're like, well, why would we burn this tonight? Let's do it next week. I think it's a valid argument. These are just my thoughts. I don't think I'm necessarily right. I think there is a compelling argument in regards to, hey, you know what? Why wasn't he there? He's the champ, newly crowned. That makes a lot of sense too. But I think there's some valid logic as well. For the opposite. So we get "fuck you, Regal" chants from the crowd. He calls them uncouth. Thank you, William. And then he said, MJF is going to be here next week. Apparently there's another email. We'll see what happens. Jon Moxley arrives and he is laser focused on Regal. And he's just, he's got this, the calm psychopath energy about him. He's like, yeah, man, I'm going to fuck you up so hard, right? Kind of thing. And he's focused. He's not happy. He gets into the ring, but immediately a hippie hits the ring. No, wait, it's Bryan Danielson. I shouldn't lie, because I was looking at his beanie and I was like, that's a good beanie. I want that beanie. So, I'm not going to sit here and trash on, hipster Bryan Danielson when I am, the oldest hipster alive right now. But Danielson gets in the ring and he pleads with Jon not to hurt him because Regal has a bad neck and 2 brain bleeds. He gets on his knees to beg him off, starts talking about the struggles that he had to understand his dad and his dad's struggles, and Regal helped him through that. Does a comparison with Mox's daughter, and that seemed to really hit home for him. So Mox sort of lets the voice of reason, that is Bryan Danielson, take over. And he tells him, I need you to run. Run far away, as far as you can, and never, ever come back. Regal is slowly walks away. And I thought this was great. I thought it was fresh. Don't see this kind of stuff before. And, little things that made this promo work. As opposed to having everything set and very contrived and now it's your speaking turn. Now it's you do this, you do, we had the bullet points, but Danielson a couple of times tried to reach over to grab the mic, which was on the apron, but Moxley would come in. So he'd be pushing him off and he'd be, holding him off with one arm while reaching for the microphone. It felt like a very combustible situation where anything could happen at any given moment, and it, while it didn't derail the segment, it gave a little more authenticity to the segment, right? It didn't feel scripted. Of course, the guys had their bullet points. They knew what they were going to talk about. Of course, whatever. But it didn't feel overproduced. It felt like, one guy was trying to keep another guy from killing another guy. And he wanted to grab the microphone, but the other guy was like, I like this. I liked it a lot. Now, of course, there's a lot of people questioning, wondering about whether William Regal is done or not, right? That's the whole other thing. There's some discourse popping up. And look, I'm not sure what his contract status is. Has he been there a full year yet? I don't think so, right? Didn't he he debuted this year, right? So it hasn't even been a full year. I don't think Like, he got a full contract, right? He wasn't per appearance. He's been there. He's been an integral part of the show. What if he was released early from his contract and, jumped on a plane to Orlando? Sure. His son is working in NXT. He's on extremely good terms with Paul Levesque. Honestly, if this was a write-off for William Regal, I wouldn't be surprised, and I couldn't blame it. I'd be like, happy trails to him. I'd be sad because, of course, I wouldn't see William Regal on TV anymore. I think he's always welcome, but I wouldn't put it past AEW to set this up as just like another level of friction between Mox and Regal and the BCC and now MJF in here. Like, there's still a lot of open questions. I wouldn't be surprised if Max comes out next week and he's like, you know what, Jon Moxley, you don't call the shots here anymore. I'm the champ. And then he brings out William Regal and says, William Regal is under my protection, whatever. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised. But Regal did walk out the heel tunnel. Don't know if you noticed that, but he did walk out the heel tunnel. We'll see. This is exactly the kind of situation where hot take culture has no room here because there are still so many open possibilities. Warren, what do you think he's going to do? I don't know. I just told you, I think there's two completely valid scenarios here. One, that he might in fact be gone. Feels like that would mean that he would have been released early from his contract if that was the thing, which again is possible. But there's, in all the stories that AEW develops, this makes a lot of sense that they would just add an extra level of tension, trying to call into your wrestling brain tropes where you're like, oh, it's a heel turn. Oh, he's leaving. Oh, and then just sort of skew them a bit. Not swerve, but skew them. Deliver something that you weren't necessarily expecting. So let's give it a week. Let's have a conversation about this next week, because I don't think there's much more. We can only speculate. We can say, look, I think there's two scenarios possible here. Nothing else to add. But I thought this segment was great. And now guess what? I'm looking forward to MJF twice as much. I'm looking forward to MJF addressing all of this next week. We get an interview backstage with Renee Paquette. She's about to interview Keith Lee, but then Swerve arrives. Keith Lee tells him, choose your words wisely. Strickland covers the camera. He does one of these. He says, we need to talk in private. Now, what did I tell y'all on my review of Full Gear on the podcast on Tuesday? What did I tell y'all? I told you I would not be surprised, because everyone was like, oh, they're splitting up. But I said, I would not be surprised if Swerve and Lee stick together. If Swerve gets into Lee's good graces again, and maybe it's Keith Lee who starts turning towards the dark side. I told you guys, I wouldn't be surprised if these guys still found a way to talk to each other, because this is how it goes. Because this is why I enjoy this booking. Things for grown-ups. That's what I tweeted out when the Jon Moxley, William Regal stuff was happening. I was like, look, this is storytelling for grown-ups. In a company that is not supposed to have any stories, that people keep telling me there's no stories in AEW. There's quite a few going on. And I feel like it's, for grown-ups. That get you to think. Get you to be like, oh, well, this is actually intriguing. This is actually fun. Then we get the All-Atlantic title match where Orange Cassidy defeated Jake Hager and his purple hat. He wrestled with the hat, And he did a spot with the sunglasses too. Orange Cassidy tosses the purple hat off his, and I like that Jake Hager now. It's like, if he doesn't have the hat, he can't operate. He's like Michael Myers without his mask. You know, when Michael Myers gets his mask pulled off in the Halloween movies, right? Not Mike Myers, the comedian, the fictional psychopath. He's like, he hides his, he's like a luchador. He hides his, he can't do anything until he gets his mask back on. This was I enjoyed this match. I thought this was pretty fun. Orange Cassidy dives on Hager, who catches him and plants him on the apron pretty hard. Then he does a fucking bear hug. My God, people. The highly improved Jake Hager pulling out the highly improved move of a bear hug in the year of our Lord 2022. Hager rams the best friends on the floor. Cassidy springboard dives off the floor onto the Jericho Appreciation Society, who were there to accompany Hager. Cassidy then gets back into the ring, flies off. He gets caught by Hager, but Cassidy reverses it into a Stundog Millionaire Tornado DDT as well. Orange Punch is caught by Hager into a Uranagi. He then locks in. He gets an ankle lock in. Orange Cassidy removes the hat, distracts him. Orange Punch, Cazadora, roll up, win. We're good. Cassidy retains. People keep telling me Jake Hager's improved, and I'm like, this is the Jake Hager that I've always known. Fine. He's fine. Maybe he's showing more personality, and people are like, oh, he's improved. Well, his personality, like the hat is giving him a personality. For sure. Don't get me wrong, but anyway. After the match, the factory and come out. QT Marshall gets on the mic. He says, basically starting to say that they have unfinished business, them and the best friends, but the lights go out. Julia Hart appears at the top of the ramp. She raises her hand. The lights turn back on. House of Black are in the ring, and they attack the best friends. They beat the factory down, drag a security guard to the stage, and Buddy Matthews tosses him over to Brody King for Dante's Inferno, which was pretty dope. I thought that they were done. I thought Aleister Black was done with what was going on. They're all back. So there we go. So now the trios division gets a little dicier. And look, if we want to go House of Black, running through other factions in AEW, I'm cool with that. I think this might be one of the reasons why Rocky Romero is still hanging around the best friends. Maybe we're going to get a trios match. Trent, Chucky, and Rocky with the House of Black. You keep Orange Cassidy out of that because he's a champion, and you want to keep him looking top notch. Also want to mention, Orange Cassidy has been defending that title like crazy. I don't know why. And yet just a couple of months ago. Why is there no All Atlantic title on AEW television? We never see it. Now you see it every week. Ricky Starks defeated Ethan Page in the AEW World Title Eliminator Tournament final match. Of course, I'm a little dumbfounded. I was not expecting this. I thought Ethan Page was going to do this, but no, we're going full babyface route. And if you think MJF is going to be a heel, a babyface moving forward, everything that happened since Dynamite, since Full Gear, should prove you wrong. And this is part of the equation here, because you're going to get a full-blown babyface Ricky Starks here, who comes out super taped. I mean, like really putting over the injury, right? Really putting over the injuries that he sustained to Brian Cage and Lance Archer. To the max. We're not just a bit of kinesio tape, right? We're going like full on fucking, Roman Emperor style tapings. Jesus. But it gets it over. That's the idea. They're working the fact that Ricky Starks is hurt, and Ethan Page uses that to his advantage. Of course, during the match. Ricky hits a spear, but dummy, your shoulders hurt, you big dummy, you dummy. What are you doing, you dummy? So Ethan Page beats him up on the floor. Good segment where he works over Starks, hits a suplex. Starks tries a comeback, but Page rope hangs him. Ethan Page goes to the floor. Ricky Starks dives, but Stokely pulls Page out of the way, and Starks wipes out on the floor, which causes Stokely Hathaway to get ejected from the match. We get some top rope shenanigans. Superplex by Ricky Starks, and a nice, snappy superplex on top of that. I got a good reaction out of your boy here. Swinging neck breaker by Starks. Page powers out of a Roshambo attempt and power slams Ricky Starks. Starks escapes the Ego's Edge, hits a spear. He's hurt, but he goes for another one and gets the win. Crowd went nuts for it, cheered for Starks throughout the entire way. It was the good decision. We're getting a good heel babyface dynamic. This ultimately is the booking that proves that Ricky Starks is that MJF is going to be a heel. Don't worry, he's not going to be the babyface. He's not going to continue doing what he's been doing. He's the heel, and he's going to beat up crowd favorite Ricky Starks here. He's going to beat him up hard. Because that winter is coming, of course, and because we know Starks is not going to win. And of course, we still have all the question open when we see Ethan Page and Stokely. What is MJF's relationship with the firm moving forward? So that is also an element that we didn't talk about, but that will most probably be put together as well. Will come together as well, is what I meant to say. So I liked it. I was a little surprised. I thought Page was going to make it. I thought Ethan Page was going to win because Starks too injured. You know, you had a good way for Starks to lose. You got the out because he came from behind. He wrestled all of his tournament matches in a very, very short amount of time where Ethan Page had time to rest. You know, you could have worked all of that, but no. Ricky Starks comes from beneath to get the big win. I liked it. Fun little match. We get we get the wrap up of Jade Cargill and Bow Wow, the happening where they confronted each other at some event, and Cargill and the baddies got shoved away by Bow Wow's security. I thought that the way it was shot, the way all of this was presented, I dug it. You know, it again felt organic, felt felt organic, didn't feel like there was a camera already set up there with a tripod, and you had the sound guy with the boom, and it all felt oh shit, this is happening now. And this is something that WWE could benefit from. Instead of having like everything be like crisp and overproduced and everyone like standing 3/4 in front of the camera, so that you never a little reality, a little authenticity goes a long way, and I think this went a long way here. But this leads into Jade chatting with the baddies, chatting with Renee Paquette backstage, and she says she's not giving that whack ass rapper any more attention. Just coming out of my mouth sounds so wrong, but it's really funny. And she says that next week they're going to do a celebration now that she got her TBS title back, and Mark Sterling will address the Bow Wow situation as well. She says my legal counsel, so she has him back. Maybe he's on retainer. I don't know, but I like this dopey role that Mark Sterling has, where he's just like pulled in whenever needed. And they leave. Oh, Red Velvet is officially back. She was right there. And they leave and they fire Kiera Hogan from the baddies. Odd choice. But okay, let's see what let's see what ensues there. Then we get the Death Triangle trios match where they defeated the local heels Kenny Omega, Matt and Nick Jackson in their best of 7 series. I mean, this was electric. I've talked about the atmosphere, the back of the, what happened in the crowd. Look, the guys pulled off an excellent match of the year candidate. a few days ago, they're on TV, they're doing the same goddamn thing. Not the same goddamn match, but they're pulling off just an extraordinary match, which should get your crowd molten like this. Like this is it here. Boy, Phoenix and Omega go at it. The triple team Phoenix to boos by the Chicago crowd. Kenny Omega does a sky high. Penta sling blaze. Matt Jackson on the floor. Omega goes for the rise of the Terminator and does the GTS pose before hitting it to some delicious heat. But before he can land it, Rey Fenix cutters him. See? You keep the heel from hitting his big move. Babyface reaction. I'm telling you, everything in this is perfectly put together. And Phoenix hits a tornillo to the floor. The Elite get triple teamed by Death Triangle, but the Elite then start working Pac's face because apparently he sustained a facial injury, and he's wearing one of these, these face masks. So they start like kicking it and punching it. Matt Jackson hits a Norihara moonsault. Kataro Crusher on Pac by Kenny Omega. Matt does the buckshot lariat fuck up during picture-in-picture, which got a lot of people upset. And I thought no one watched the wrestling during picture-in-picture. Huh. Interesting. Huge snap German suplex by Pac. Penta cleans house with a bunch of backbreakers. Phoenix with a springboard splash. Crowd is going nuts here at this point. The Elite pull off Pac's mask. Just despicable shit. BT trigger on Pac. Nick with the Escalera dive to the floor. V trigger on Pac. Picks him up for the You Can't Escape, but no. Instead reverses it into a GTS to just an alarming amount of heat. Just fantastic stuff. Huge dive by Rey Fenix onto Matt Jackson. Huge dive by Phoenix, but Matt Jackson low blows Pac. Matt Jackson has the hammer to use it. He's like, you're not going to get us this time. But Penta instead uses it on Matt Jackson, and Pac gets the pin. I've talked about this match enough. I'm telling you, if you didn't like this, then we are in completely different planes of pro wrestling enjoyment. Complete. The opposite, which would have been to ignore it, would have been infantile, dumb, and would have made this match worse. Renee Paquette is on stage and announces that because Thunder Rosa is seriously injured, that Rosa and AEW management have come to an agreement that she will relinquish the title. And so that means Jamie Hayter is interim champion no more. We don't know what the situation is, how far injured Thunder Rosa is. And look, I'm on the record multiple times. I know a lot of people are rejoicing, celebrating. The interim title stuff really didn't bother me all that much. It really didn't. It didn't bother me all that much. But it was an enormous sticking point for a lot of people, right? But now, finally all that discussion is done. Hopefully Thunder Rosa is okay. She put out an interestingly worded tweet that could, either be construed as either her, because she used the word, moving on to the next chapter or something. Now it's time for the next chapter. I'm paraphrasing, but she used the term next chapter. Now, what does that mean? A wrestler in a promotion can have a next chapter, right? It's like, okay, well, I'm not champion anymore. What's the next chapter in my AEW career? Or does it mean, what is the next chapter in my career, period? Is Thunder Rosa done with AEW? I mean, look, the tweet, I think we're already overanalyzing it just by talking about it in the way we're doing right now. When I say we, I mean I. We'll understand soon enough what the tweet meant. But I think it is a good decision. If they don't have a timeline return for Thunder Rosa, I think it makes sense because it would have eventually devalued the whole situation, all these reigns that are coming up. I think they were hopeful that they would get Thunder Rosa back sooner than later, and I guess it didn't happen. I guess maybe this week it was like, because look, Tony Khan on, was it the media call before Full Gear, said, that he had been considering that he had been considering stripping Rosa of the title, right? That was part of his, that was something that they were considering. So as of last week, probably some discussions happened, something happened, maybe the timeline for her return got pushed back. We don't know. I'm sure we will find out. As it stands right now, we don't know. I'm sure eventually we're going to get to the bottom of it. But as of last week, Tony Khan was like, yeah, we might just do it. And look, they went ahead and did it. So I think this is good because then it makes Jamie Hayter's win much more significant. Because I had a little doubt, and I still have a little doubt, and we'll talk about it in a second. But this feels a little more solid as far as the decision goes. And then later on, commentary informed us that Toni Storm's reign would also retroactively have the interim qualifier removed from it. So her own title reign is going to be an official world title reign, not an interim one, which is a good move. I think that makes look, it's good all around, and good for Toni Storm because Toni Storm did a fantastic job as a workhorse champion with the belt, and it legitimizes what Jamie Hayter is doing here. So all of this brings out Jamie Hayter, who comes out with Britt Baker and Rebel. Britt yoinks the mic away from Jamie and cuts a promo just saying this is we're just telling everyone what we already know. They weren't considering this as interim. Jamie's the champ, so on and so. She's the mouthpiece, right? But you can tell Jamie was sort of like, all right, well, you do your thing. Because again, Jamie didn't get over because of her top tier mic skills. She got over because of her work. If Britt Baker's going to be her mouthpiece for a while, I'm completely okay with that. I don't think it takes anything away. Like, I've already got people who's like, well, they should let the champion talk. It doesn't matter. Because I think the opposite is also possible. You can let your champion talk and it can actually damage them. I think this was smart. And if anything, it continues to add to the ongoing long-term story of dissent, of irritation, of frustration, whatever you want to call it, between Jamie and Britt. This is something else we can point to when whoever decides to turn on the other or abandon the other. We can go like, look, even when I was champion, you wanted the spotlight and so on and so forth. And in this match, it happened again. The next match that we got where a 6-woman tag match, or a 3-way tag team match, I should call it. Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker defeated Anna JAS and Ty Mello and the team of Willow Nightingale and Skye Blue. I thought this was a fun little match. I'm glad they're going back to this booking. I keep telling you, I'm a fan of multi-person matches. I think it works for the women's division because a lot of them are getting over on their work as opposed to their in-ring promo abilities. So I think that's critical. I think that's important. Jamie is early in control, does a double suplex on the JAS ladies. Willow Nightingale takes the power to TayJay, but she gets dumped to the floor and into the barricade. Willow Nightingale is the babyface Apero for most of the match here. Skye Blue hits a double crossbody. Britt Baker a net breaker. DVD by Willow Nightingale. We get some kicks, some kick strikes between Skye Blue and Ty Mello. Skye hits a code blue. Jamie Hayter takes everyone out, and Britt Baker wins by getting the stomp. She gets the pin for her team. So, on one hand, I understand what they're trying to do here, in the sense that, if you go down the path of Britt Baker, still wanting to be the center of attention, wanting to take away shine from Jamie Hayter, I can get that. But I expressed a doubt in the at the full gear review that the fact that Jamie Hayter has won the belt with use of a lot of outside interference isn't exactly a strong win. And I said that, and and I referenced to some recent examples that we saw, for instance, in World Wrestling Entertainment, where you have someone cash in their money in the bank, but immediately they're put into positions where they don't succeed, they don't win, they don't feel important. So since we don't have precedent for this in AEW, I don't want to get up in arms in it because, again, I want to take some time to absorb what's going on, and maybe we'll have some analysis down the road as opposed to going, aha, I told you so. But I did say, look, let's see how they handle Jamie Hayter coming out the gate as the new champion. Let's see, because, just like, let's say, Liv Morgan winning her championship and then like losing like a chump on her first big defense wasn't exactly a call of confidence. Big E winning off of Money in the Bank as well, then the first time he's pulled out on TV loses his match as a champion. Like none of this looks, those are not good looks, and they're not, those were indicators that management, the bookers, creative, whatever you want to call it, didn't have confidence in their champions. So hopefully this is not the same pattern here. But right now, because of how I've been pea-brained, I'm looking at this and I'm like, these are not confident outings for Jamie Hayter. Again, I am thrilled that she won. I think it was, it was a smart decision to put the belt on someone who's super over right now with the company. That's fine. But the way she won the match is a little iffy, doesn't exactly instill confidence. She comes out, tries to cut a promo, gets overshined. Again, I get it. It might be a storyline, but then comes out and is essentially a non-factor in the victory because Britt gets the win. I'm like, are we telling the story at the detriment of putting Jamie over as a clear dominant force in the division, which she was before winning the championship? So again, I think I see what they're doing with this story, but and we'll see how things develop, because AEW has taught me to let things grow. It's not always successful, but when it is, it makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to, since there's no precedent, I'm not going to start pulling the hair out of my head, but I don't feel exactly like Jamie Hayter is the strong, confident champion that she could be at this point because of the three elements I mentioned. Multiple interference to win the title, not getting her shine taken away from her first promo in, and not being a factor in winning the match. I'm just going to throw that out there. I hope the booking improves. We get a backstage interview with FTR and Top Flight setting up a match for Rampage at 4 p.m. Eastern this Friday, in case you haven't heard. They're doing it because of hockey. The NHL wins. Then the Acclaim come out for a quick segment to give the people what they want, to get the people to cheer, to do the scissoring shtick. And we also get Sanjay Dutt, Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, and Jeff Jarrett. They show up on the Tron to sort of challenge them for the titles. I don't know why we would consider these guys as a team to even be challengers, as they have never won anything, really. Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett have had one match in AEW together as a tag team, and they lost. I don't know. If it's in an eliminator style match, that's fine. But I don't see why they should be considered challengers at this point. I haven't announced the match yet, so all right. And the main event, Ring of Honor World Title match. Chris Jericho successfully retained his title against Tomohiro Ishii in a fucking great main event. And again, we are completely missing the plot here by not talking about how great this main event was, how great this capped off a great Dynamite where there was nothing but great stuff that happened. Palm strikes to start off with each other. They strong style each other. And this backdrop driver by Tomohiro Ishii. But the chops, the striking, this would be the story of the match. Chops and more chops. And Ishii is just laying into Jericho. And Jericho's chest just starts pouring blood. And we've seen dudes, their chests get busted open, right? And they'll see like droplets of blood. We've seen, I remember Bryan Danielson getting his chest busted open a few years ago in a match with Roderick Strong. Bryan Danielson, well, it happens quite a bit actually. Dax Harwood has happened recently as well, but never this much. It was to a point where I'm sitting with Kristen and we're watching the match. She's like, he must have bladed. I'm like, I don't know how. Why would you blade on your chest? That doesn't make. That's a terrible place. And I get it. There's a lot of blood coming out. Your heart's racing. But Jesus Christ, the mats were stained with blood from chops to the chest. This is a violent slugfest, is what this turned into. And the crowd is eating this up. Jericho mounts Ishii for some punches, but Ishii running power bombs him, and Chris Jericho gets the advantage by doing a running windpipe chop to the throat, to the windpipe. There you go. And what a wild DDT that Jericho landed on Ishii on the apron. Ishii just stood straight up on his head. German suplex by Ishii. Jericho hits one of his own, and then another German suplex. Jericho follows up with a lion salt and a code breaker, sliding lariat by Ishii. Ishii hits a code breaker of his own. Crowd goes completely apeshit. Running lariat takes Jericho's head off. Jericho blocks the enziguri attempt and enters the walls of Jericho. Ishii rolls onto his back to try and break out. Jericho, while maintaining the hold, punches him a couple of times on the nose. So he rolls him into a lion tamer this time. Ishii flips him off, but taps as he's flipping off, which was a great visual. What a fantastic main event to an all-timer. Dynamite. And you're going to get the people who are going to be pissed off about Chris Jericho. And I understand, don't get me wrong, but there is no reason for Chris Jericho to be putting on the matches he has been putting on recently. And there is no reason for him to have gone as hard as he did in this match at this stage in his career. And yet, here we are. This was wonderful. Just a fantastic explosion by both of these guys in a match that just completely blew my mind. Tomohiro Ishii continues to be the MVP of pro wrestling. It's been this for years at this point. This is how he's going to be remembered. This is his legacy. Getting into never winning the big one, never always being the bridesmaid, never the bride, but having extraordinary matches with just about everyone he pops into the ring with. He can work with anyone. And look, this is what we get. This is what we got on this show. Crowd-pleasing title defense. All-Atlantic title, Orange Cassidy, just good stuff. Ricky Starks, babyface, winning the tournament, moving on. Again, great stuff. Excellent trios match. Fun three-way tag team match for the women's division. And then on top of that, an extraordinary main event. All intertwined with great stories. Feels like what we were talking about with Full Gear, that it needed to be like closing a book, not just a chapter, a book of a story and opening up a new one. Lots of new seeds being sown, a lot of new stuff happening, and a lot of just logical continuation moving forward. I mean, I have nothing bad to say about this show. We're spoiled. I can't tell you enough. We're spoiled. And I'm spoiled that y'all decided to listen to my review today. Thank you very much. Leave a like and a subscription and subscribe. Leave a like and subscribe If you're watching this on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes, or, if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, you know what to do. 5-star rating, a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, and a 5-star rating on Spotify. Hey, I'm recording this on Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to all of my American pals out there. If you're listening to this later, well, the intent still stands. Otherwise, I hope everyone's having a wonderful day, regardless. And thank you again very much for listening. I'll be back on Tuesday. See you next time.